Hi guys, it's Hannah here from Blue Ferret Boarding, and this is week 4 where we've been talking about illnesses and ferrets. Now this week is a bit of a shorter week, and I thought I'd just give you a little bit of a tour around our first aid kit, which is a bit of a mess and it isn't really complete, but a lot of the stuff is here. And I've also got a mini first aid kit that I take out, or at least it stays in the car all the time for when I'm out and about. So this first aid kit isn't fully complete because some of it's just in my kitchen cupboards, but there is a first aid kit in the car as well which has the rest. So firstly, let's start. Restoration. This is Hill's Restorative Care AD with chicken. This is both for cats and dogs, and we get this and we always have this in, and it's just a pate that you can feed, and we often feed it as it is, but sometimes we'll water it down. Sometimes we'll put some of our own WD oil in it to help it be more palatable. Sometimes it will just be a boost that we'll put into a much bigger mix if we make a sort of a soup or something similar for them for a high nutritious meal. Moving on from that, our wonderful WD. This is one of our new small bottles thereof. Travel bottles, or good for your first aid kit. We use this for everything, literally everything, from clipping nails to distracting them if we have to give pills, to taking them to the vets so that the vets, to distract them while the vets look at them, to anything else and everything else in between. If we need to wash them and they're struggling, if we need to wash their rear end for whatever reason, then they're struggling, we might give them this. So one of us will be feeding a little bit of this while the other one's washing them, just to help them. A small tub. This is actually from a detergent bottle, but any sort of small tub, just to put small bits of food in. Again, depending on the size of the ferret, you might need something bigger than this. It's useful for just mixing things in. It's useful to use just to put syringes in, and I'll come back to that in a minute. So just some sort of small tub. Again, we have some of those goo, glass things we use, some more ramekins, things like that we'll also use. So these here are the 10ml syringes. We have quite a few of these in, and these are literally great for just taking up a pureed food, taking it up, and then depending, you can have a few that are full just sitting in that like that, ready to give. And if it's through the night and I'm feeding through the night, I will do that, where I have a few literally like that, all prepared, all ready to feed. And these are great as well because it means you can keep an eye on, the marking's almost gone on this one, but you can keep an eye on quite how much you're feeding them. There you go, it's a better one. So you can keep an eye on how much they're actually taking. So if you fill it to about the 10ml, and then you gently give it to them, and you can see how much they've eaten from that, and get an idea of if they're eating more or less. So I have some of the smaller ones as well that I've just over the years I've got hold of. So these are just some of the smaller milliliter ones, but again, if I'm feeding through the night, I'll just use them all just so I know what I'm giving my ferret and how much my ferret's eating. It's a little brush, rarely use it, but it's there if we do. Use it more for shows, just to brush them, just to make sure they're lovely and fluffy for shows. A tick comb. Now, a flea comb, sorry. Now, a flea comb is really good, and what you're wanting to do with a flea comb is, it's not just about combing through the fur and having fleas come out that you can then kill. The way to deal with fleas, I would say, would be to wash the ferret if you can, and entirely dunk them under some lukewarm water if you can, briefly, because the flea should jump off them at that point and they don't like water. So that's one way. But what you're wanting to do with this is actually to do with flea dirt. So you're wanting to actually brush the comb through the ferret's fur, and then you want to get a piece of cotton wool. It's a bit of old cotton wool that I'll have used for something else. A bit of cotton wool or kitchen wool or something, and you're wanting to do that. You're wanting to do that with it. So you've got your flea, you're brushing it through them like this. You'll then get something white, cotton wool or something, and you'll go like that. And what you're looking for is if there's any blood or anything like that, or dirt in there, which comes from the fleas or from the eggs. And that's what you're looking for. And if when you do that, there's a little bit of blood after you've squeezed it, that's indicative that there's flea dirt. and that's what you're looking for to tell you that there's still fleas. Even if there's no physical fleas on your ferret, that flea dirt is telling you that your ferret still needs treated. So, more 10 ml syringes. A little bit of Pet Remedy decalming, which I haven't used yet, but it's in there if I ever need it. I tend to use WD, but it's there if I ever need it. It was a freebie, I think, with something. I always have skin disinfectant in there, just so that wherever I am, I can quickly clean my hands if I need to. I've got them in here at the minute. My two, excuse me, I'm going to cough. My two different sized tick removers. Proper tick removers. Again, don't use anything but a proper tick remover, and the idea is that you hook it around the tick like that. So you find the tick, you gently go up to the tick like that, so it's in between, and then you spin that round, gently pulling it off, and it should release itself. You don't just pull. And the smaller one is literally for smaller ticks, so you can get in between them like that on the skin, and eventually doing that should gently pull them off. And then I tend to just drop them, get the whole thing and just drop it and dip it into hot water because I'm horrid. We've got one of these spare, which is no bad thing, but you can get these from the vets. Usually they'll tell you, but we had one or two spare, and this is literally a poop sample. So again, for quite recently for ours, one of them's been quite poorly. We've taken two of them to the vet actually. They've each had a course of penicillin. One's completely recovered. The other we weren't sure, he took a bit longer to recover. As it is, he has recovered, but I'd already got this, and had I needed to, I could have taken, it's got a little spoon on it, and you literally scoop up a little bit of poop and put it in there. And what they generally ask is over a few days, but I think it can depend on what they're asking for, but you literally use that. And it's useful to have one in, so unless you're close to the vets, you don't have to go and collect one. You can literally start from then. Got another different type of flea comb. Many more medication things. I've got a few little, just some, I found these from somewhere. I think these were from Red's dressings from Red's Cordoma that had him removed. So some dressings, and we also have some, what's it called? Micropore tape. Again, I think this is left over from Red's dressings. So I wouldn't necessarily use these unless it was in direction from the vet, but I have them there in case. And some of these things I might look at and go, well, those are out of date, but I keep hold of them just in case. That is pretty much it. There's just more and more of these little syringes. Now, what I'd also have in is flour, but I have that in the house, so I'd always have flour in there as well. And there's probably other things that might not be in here. There's obviously any medications that I have to give, but obviously those medications can go out of date. So I tend to keep this little drawer here is my first aid drawer, and then I'll have a different medication drawer which has medications in it, and then every now and then I will go through that medication drawer and take everything that's out of date to the vets. As I say, there's other things that I'd have. In terms of maintenance, I might have clippers and things, but in terms of first aid, that's pretty much my first aid kit. I hope this has been informative for you, perhaps not as enjoyable as some. Nobody wants to think about their ferrets being ill, but hopefully you found it of use. If you have, let us know in the comments below. If you've got anything else you'd suggest to add to this first aid kit, let us know also. And I will see you next week when we hit December. Who knew? When did that happen? All right, until then, take care. Bye.